So I don't know if there's any words you wanted to say, Jeff, before I sort of dive in here.
Sure. So just for those who, for those of you who are here now, and for those who may be tuning in later to check out the YouTube recording, I'm Jeff Talanian, and this is Dave Sherman that's hosting us tonight, and we're here to talk about the Hyperborea VTT that's been in development for, gosh, probably a year and a half or so, and Dave is going to be going over some of the features that he's been plugging away at in the last 18 months or so.
Indeed. Yeah, and I actually did start development about, gosh, 2 years ago, but we just released it, version 1.0, last year in October, so it's been almost exactly a year. And we're now up to version 1.23, and I am actually hard at work for release 2.0, so we're going to have a major version upgrade coming relatively soon here. That is only going to be supported on Foundry version 13. So up until now, version 1.23, which is where we're at right now, I have supported both Foundry version 12 and Foundry version 13. But 13 came out several months ago now. Gosh, probably 6 months ago. Anywhere around there, anyways. It's very stable, and there are some features that I've wanted to add that were not easy to support or manage in version 12, but with some of the improvements in version 13, Foundry version 13, that made it easier for me to implement some features that I wanted to do. So I've already got some underway here. So with the release of Hyperborea system version 2.0 for Foundry, that will have some new features in it that will not exist under version 12, Foundry version 12, because that Hyperborea 2.0 will not be compatible with Foundry version 12. You'll have to upgrade to 13 if you're not already on it. So with that said, if there's no immediate questions, I can go over a few things here.
The hub has joined us now.
Okay.
So what are the major differences to start off between
Sure.
12 and 13 at this point?
The main differences that a person would notice would be things like, let's see, do I even have it running in here right now? Configuration settings, Hyperborea, yes. So for one thing, I've developed a custom configuration menu. So up until, this is actually available even, no, actually it's not, I take it back. So I'm on Foundry version 13 here in my Forge environment. This is my test environment, but I am on Foundry version 13. So one of the things that I was able to do in Foundry 13 was have a totally custom configuration menu with tabs and all the options available. If you're on Foundry version 12, you basically see all the options right here in one very long scrolling page, which is still functional. It's 100% functional, but this custom window allowed me to organize things a little more nicely, and just makes it easier to use, I think. So
you create your own hierarchies.
Exactly, and you can see I broke it up into UI, user interface options, so things like chat relative font size. So I can actually, for my old eyeballs, you can actually bump that if I hit save. Actually, I don't even think I have to hit save. Oh, maybe I do. Yeah, there I went. See, I just bumped it up by 2, and you can see the chat on the right got way bigger.
Right.
If I dial it back to +1 and hit save again, there's like that. Sometimes my eyes get tired. Like I said, my old eyeballs, I'm 56 and not that old, but sometimes my eyes get tired. But this is the default size right here. So I added this feature literally just for me. But I thought other people might.
A lot of other. I believe many will.
Exactly. A lot of us old grog nerds are starting to feel like we need reading glasses or whatever, and it makes it a little easier to read. So that's one of the things that's only available in Foundry version 13. You're not going to see this feature in Foundry version 12. This whole custom thing, but also this relative font size, is a new feature in itself within the system.
Okay.
Most of these,
I like that you can customize it.
Pardon me?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. So this is all the options here. Again, most of these options are in Foundry version 12, just in the one long scrolling page. But this relative font size is unique to Foundry version 13. So then when we get to combat rules, I've got all sorts of optional stuff that are things like, well, use group-based initiative. That's the default for Hyperborea, so this is enabled by default. But you can disable it if you want to do an individual initiative as a referee. And all of these things are usually, I chose whatever the default option is the one that would be essentially rules as written. Rules as written.
Okay.
Or it's something where it might be more strict than a referee wants to be. So you see like limit movement to move speed. Incidentally, this is also only available in Foundry version 13. So that's another one. Because Foundry version 13 introduced a new means of tracking token movement on the screen. So this option is only available in Foundry 13. But if you have this, you can see it's disabled by default. But if you have it checked, like I do, then in combat, only in the context of combat, when you're moving your token, it will actually limit you to a number of feet equal to your move speed, whether it's 30 feet or 40 feet or whatever it happens to be, on a per round basis.
So when you override that, will that be in the case of, say, certain spells that may increase movement, or magic items, or things that will create exceptions to that standard movement rate?
Yeah, you would have to actually override it on the character. So if I get this out of the way, we'll just close these. Let's say if Carrick here, has haste cast on him, if you have a spell that actually has an effect that increases his speed, you might actually see haste appear over here under effects, and it would actually maybe add a temp move, which is what you might do. So you might say, my move is now plus 20, and you can see my move automatically jumped up to 50 when it was 30. And now the system will allow me to move Carrick 50 feet on his turn in the round. So, and then at the end, so I'm doing it manually right now, of course, just by doing that. But you can also apply a temporary move thing via active effects. And in fact, I think, do you mind if I show off? Oh, I don't have it installed. I thought I did. Okay, never mind. I was going to say, do you mind if I show off the compendium? Which is, of course, still very much in development, although very close. But
of course.
You're good with it? Because if I jump over to here, I might be able to show off some things.
Sure, yeah, why not a teaser?
Oh, teaser?
Why not have the little teaser, right?
Absolutely. So let me just look up haste. So like with yep.
The one thing that I was thinking of was so what about would you consider a class ability an effect in such a case? Like, say, for example, the barbarian has the run ability, but that run ability of the base movement of 50 is only when lightly armored or unarmored.
Yep, you could definitely do it that way. It would be easy to set up. If I show the haste for a second, what you can do, like this is the haste right in the compendium that we'll be releasing at some point here in the relatively near future. But I actually have a temporary effect on there, and if you look at it, it's got the duration built in, and then the changes it adds. It actually has a formula in here to double your movement speed effectively by adding it to the temporary move modifier. And that's what, if that gets applied, then is exactly what I was showing you, is it would be added to this field right here. In fact, one of these guys might even have haste on him. He's got gauntlets of ogre power, so that increases his strength. Does she have haste? Nope, she's got gauntlets of dexterity, which may have been a homebrew item that I was just experimenting with. Boots of striding and springing. There's so many things I could show off, and I don't want to get, now I'm getting myself sidetracked here, but in terms of your question, Jeff, you were asking about like a barbarian. So if I go back to this one, let's see. Well, I don't have a barbarian in here. The problem is if I go over here, I've got a lot of stuff. This is my version 2.0 development environment. And honestly, things might be broken because I am still developing. Let's see if I've got anything in here. I thought I had
Do
some
you
test characters. Here we
have
go.
um do you have a monk in there?
I do
So
have
monk
them.
also has.
Yeah. So, oh, that's what I was going to talk about was the speed thing. So normally, what I would suggest is, let's see, if we look at class abilities. So let's
Mhm.
go into um, classes, class descriptions. So what I have done is I've set up all your class descriptions here. So if we look at monk as an example, let me find monk. It's broken down by the as a subclass. So you'll see all the abilities. So within Hyperborea, you can drag and drop these onto your character sheet when you're creating a character. So you don't have to retype or copy paste or anything. It's just drag this right onto your character sheet. So if I think I've already got a monk character set up under one of my tests here. Oh, maybe I don't. He's a leisured manist. But if I show you, like he doesn't have any of his class abilities, so I find leisured manist and I just start dragging and dropping just like this. Boom, boom. You don't even have to drag it into that area. I'm just dragging it on and you can see they're appearing down here. And then you can sort
Right.
within the character sheet. So if you prefer them, like I do, prefer them to be alphabetical, you can just drag up and down to sort things alphabetically. Okay, so
Or
backing.
what if you're a player that has a what if you're a player that who has a certain preference for using a couple of abilities a lot and you want to just put those at
Yep,
the top of your list? Can you do that?
absolutely. You can sort them any way you want just by dragging and dropping. So, like with the leisure manus, because you do have a million abilities, because look at all these. You've got all the basic
Yeah.
ones, plus you've got some of the progressive thief abilities besides, and maybe you want to group these together at the top because that's what they're going to be doing most often. You could certainly do that, or group them however you wish. So, but I was going to pull up monk because I think I actually had. Was there a defensive ability? Okay, that's the one that applies an AC bonus. And what I did for that, to give you an idea, is I actually set it up as a monk's defensive ability as an armor item. So it's a little bit funny, right? Because you don't think of this as being armor. But when you put this on your character sheet and I'm going to say air quotes, equip it, it takes the place of armor on your character sheet, so you can't actually equip any armor, but it will correctly set your base move and your armor class. And then as your monk goes up in level and gains higher movement speeds, all you got to do is adjust this number from 40 to 50 to 60. You do it on their right on their character, and that will automatically adjust their character sheet as well whenever this
Or, but
item
it should,
is on.
as long as they're not armored, if it says unarmored, then they should be starting at a base of 50.
Okay, so then I could just change that to 50. And
Yeah.
yep, so if I have, let's just pretend I've got a monk, right? We'll just grab one of my guys here. We'll grab Hawk.
Cool. Got a comment on the side here said, I figure you can probably hotbar those too.
You can do what?
Hotbar.
Yes. Yeah, items and abilities can be dragged down to the. He's talking about this the macro
Fields
bar
down in the
down
right
here.
corner
Yep,
there.
you can see I've got a bunch
Okay,
of
yeah.
items. I've got spells and I've got weapon attacks just that I was testing, but you can drag should be able to drag abilities down there. I'm pretty sure I've done that before.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So if it's an ability, so basically what you're saying, Hobbs, is if you have an ability that you use often and you want to just be able to quickly click it, you can put it down there in
Yep.
the hotbar.
So I just dragged Artemisia's climb ability down there, and you can see it right here. If I mouse over it, you get a tooltip that says climb. When I click it, I get the climb prompt, the dice roll prompt, and I can just roll it, just as if I was clicking it from her character sheet. And then in the chat there, you can see she tried, rolled badly. But yeah, so you can absolutely do that, yes. And you can cast spells from there. It's not memorized on this particular character at the moment, so this is one of those optional checkboxes in the settings to enforce spell memorization. So since Shocking Grasp is not memorized, it actually won't let him cast the spell. That's Andronakos over here. But now if I go ahead and you can see it's not memorized. So if I bump that up to 1 so he's got it memorized, now when I click it, I don't have a target selected, but I can still do the attack roll. Ideally, if it requires an attack roll, you would want to target someone. So then I would, I would go over, get within melee range, target this zombie here, and then I can click it. And now I've got someone targeted. It's not complaining. You can see it even knows it's within 5 feet of where he's standing, and I can cast the spell. This is just me. I have it set so I can tell it what dice rolls I want to do for testing purposes. Normally people won't see that because you don't have that enabled. And yeah, he tried to cast the spell, but unfortunately he missed. So yeah, that's just how that works. So
Gordunk has a question. Does the system with the pending compendium allow players to quickly roll up characters inside Foundry, thinking of the folks who inevitably die in memorable ways, who need a replacement in the session?
Indeed, yes. In fact, it's really this is available right now. This isn't even in version 2. This is available right now. So if I just want to create a really new guy, we're going to call him Bill, right? And I'm just going to say, okay, I want to roll up a Berserker. So I'm going to click Berserker, and I'm going to hit this Create button. This is only here when you first started a new character sheet. So the referee would have to, create a character sheet for the player to be able to use and give the right player rights to it. But then once the player does this, gives them a name, gives it a class, and hits Create, the system is going to roll, and it's going to roll something that will at least meet the minimum requirements for that class. So I had an error message, but that's no big deal. That's, again, my system this is my dev system right now, so there are going to be errors. But you can see it reported everything that was rolled, so you can see exactly what was rolled. You can see that his character sheet was updated, and like I said, it rolls. Well, let me go into the system, because I'll show you what I've got set up, because I don't even know offhand. So if I go into here, we go into here. So we're going to look at the Characters and NPCs tab, and under Enable Quick Create Characters, referees can disable that, by the way. Okay, but otherwise you can either set it to Method 1 3d6 or 4d6 drop lowest or 2d6 plus 6. They are all roll down the line because the system isn't going to know where you want to put the numbers. So if you don't want to do roll down the line, you won't want to use Quick Create. But if you want to use, if you're okay with roll down the line and one of these 3 methods, that's what'll happen, is it will roll in the background, and it'll roll a set of 6 attributes, and it'll check to see if they meet the minimums for the selected class, and if they do, it'll populate them. If they don't, it'll re-roll and re-roll, and it'll roll 10 times if it has to get a set of attributes that fit. But it's only going to guarantee that it'll make the minimums for the class, and you can still end up with like an 8 int randomly because that was one of the rolls down the line. Otherwise, I actually rolled really well here, or the system rolled really well for me. And it populates all your modifiers for you, and it will populate fighting ability, and it rolls your hit points, your hit dice, it fills in that number, it fills in your saving throws for you. By the way, these graphics are new with version 2.0. So,
I was going to say, I don't remember that.
Yep, I've added a little bit of eye candy to it. So
I like it.
Thank you. If the referee has set up weapons and armor in a compendium, or if you have the compendium once we've got that released, the Quick Create system will actually pull those items in for you. If it doesn't find them, it will create basically empty items that'll be like, it'll say axe hand, but there won't be any attack rate or range or class or damage on it. It'll just populate the item for you so that the player or the referee or whoever can go in, edit the item, and fill in the missing information. But again, if you've got this set up in a compendium, it'll pull it right in for you. It'll populate.
It just populates.
Pardon me?
It just populates itself once you select the item.
Exactly. Yep. And in my case, since I do have the compendium, it pulled all those items in. If it's a spell casting class, it'll fill in your casting ability and your spells per day. Not the spells per day. I'm sorry. It'll fill in this field, which is actually the spell list that you draw from. So it might be magician, or it might be cleric, or druid, or whatever. That's what this box is for right here. And then items, again, if you've got a compendium with items in it, it'll find them and pull them in. Now it's only as smart as your typing. That is to say, you have to have the names match pretty much exactly what it's expecting. So if you have misspellings or anything, it's not going to find them. But that's just
What's that little icon next to the torch?
that is a feature that allows you to light the torch and actually create a light source on your character. So if I get this out of the way, we've got, this is Bill, so he's not on the map right now. But let's just let's look at Argyros. I'm pretty sure he has a torch or some sort of light source. He's got a bunch here. So if I do this, boom, you can see light source applied to Argyros. And if I just minimize that, you can see he's got a glow around him now.
Ah, very nice.
Thank you. And it does do correctly according to the radius of the light source. So like a torch is bigger than a candle. If I do that, by the way, if you've got a light source sort of equipped, as it were, or turned on, clicking a light source again doesn't replace, it just turns it off. So I have to click torch one more time to enable it. Now you can see light source is applied again. And you can see his glow is considerably bigger now, because it was just a little 5-foot radius around him. And now it's out to about 30 feet or something, whatever torch is, I forget offhand. But if I turn that back off.
I believe it's 30 feet.
Yep. Yeah, now it's back to being dim because I turned it off. And what that does is...
quick question.
Yep.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. You can finish what you're doing.
I was just going to say what this does in the background is it actually creates a temporary light source. Because the other cool thing about this is if you set up your light sources with durations, which is actually an item thing, like this is 660 rounds. This is actually 6 plus 1d6, basically 1 to 2 hours for a torch. So it'll actually roll that duration for you. And then if the GM, if the referee, if you're using the turn tracker down here in the chat bar and you're advancing the turns one at a time, which I'm actually clicking this and it's not working because I'm in development, and that actually is a feature that I'm working on right now. It's currently broken. It works in version 1.23. So if I go over to here, the point is if I'm advancing the turns like this, you can see the turns are advancing now. If I've got a torch enabled, it's counting those turns down and reducing that duration. And when it runs out, their torch will go out.
Okay.
So then...
Is that up to the referee to manually dictate the passage of time for those turns?
Yes, the turn tracker is here for the referee to be able to advance the turns, but it is a manual thing. But I figure that's what most people would want. Right, because people are exploring. You don't know how much time they're going to spend in a given spot checking something out. So the referee can just be advancing the turns. You can do cool things like set up scripted macros to run every time the turn advances. I had this idea where what if they're on a different plane that's doing mental damage, psychic damage to them every hour. So this thing runs every turn, but it checks to see if they're on a turn divisible by 6. And then it will apply damage to everyone because they're taking mental damage for every hour they're in this weird plane of existence. Anyways, so you can do these turn advance actions. You can also add random encounter tables to this. So this will take either macros or rollable tables. So I could just add another action, and I can go into rollable tables. And this is my encounter table for the Crypt of Dalvernar, so I can just drag that onto there, and you can see it added it on. And now when I advance the turn, now you can see it actually rolled an encounter, and it rolled some Worms of Ymir.
Very nice.
Yep. And then if I had, once again, I'm in my, I forget which version I'm in. Oh yeah, okay. Yep, I know where I am. Yeah, so then you can even just roll the 1d6 right there and say, okay, they just encountered 6. Oh, actually, it was 1d8. Never mind. Oh, no, sorry. D8 was the encounter number, the encounter dice roll to determine whether there was an encounter or not and what the encounter was. You do have to roll d6 for the number, and then you would set up the encounter for 4 Worms of Ymir. So. And you can see this chat is a different color because it was a GM whisper. So the players do not know what was just rolled.
Right, okay. So the question I wanted to ask before I forget was when you were getting back to Gordunk's original question about quickly rolling up characters, you briefly mentioned a permission by the referee to go into that process. How does that work?
Yeah, so as a referee, you would go in here, you would say, create an actor, and you would just say, PC for Dave, right? And just do that. And then you're not going to do anything else with it, but you're going to right-click, you're going to configure ownership, and you're going to say, because this is my test system, my wife is the only person in here, but I could grant her owner access and click Save Changes, and now Carrie could go in and open this up, and she could say, "Oh, I'm going to do a Berserker, and he's going to be named, Brog," and then she can do a create. But it does take the GM to grant her the rights to do that initially. So there it is.
And welcome, Jan0195.
Welcome. And if everybody, for those who are new, because I think I've heard a couple of bleeps in, feel free to put your comments in the chat for the AMA channel. And Jeff is keeping an eye on those, and I'm just answering as we go. And we are recording this for YouTube, so I'm going to try not to swear. But yeah, that's how the quick create character works. The other option you have, I was going to mention this, is you could create a new character, and let's say you don't want to do roll down the line. So you actually want to roll your own rolls, and we'll just say that for the sake of argument that the person has rolled and they've come up with a series of numbers and they ended up assigning them something like this. And they did that manually. Now from here, you can still use this little book button right here, the set attribute modifiers. And what that does is, first it asks you if you're sure, because it's going to replace anything that you've got within the modifiers. But then it'll take all those numbers that you just filled in and it'll fill all this stuff in. And it will then proceed based on the class that was selected. Now, I didn't have a class selected, so it couldn't do it. But if I had had a class selected, it would have also filled in my fighting ability, my initial hit dice. It would have given turning ability if it was a clerical type or ecclesiastic class. It would have done the fighting or the spell casting, these two fields, if it was a spell casting class. So
when you say it would have, you can still do that now, right? If you just select from that drop down, it will then populate those things.
So if I do that and then I do this again, it's going to prompt me again, and I'll do it. And charisma is too low for a druid. It doesn't like that. So it gives you the warning, and you can see it's glowing red over here. I'll just bump that up to 12, which I assume is good enough.
By 2. Sure.
Yep. So there we go. So it's no longer glowing red, so it has accepted my 12 that I've updated it to. And now I'll do this one more time here, and it should go ahead. And at this point, yes, now it's filled in my fighting ability, my unskilled penalty, my hit dice. It did not roll my hit points for me. That's by design. The quick create does do so, but the assign this one here, the set attribute modifiers button, does not roll your hit points for you. So you can just do that easily enough just by clicking hit die, and you roll your number and you say, hey, look at that, I rolled a 6. I don't have a constitution bonus, so my hit points are 6, just like that.
And what that allows for too, as well, is it is an optional rule within the system that first level characters would start with max hit points, and then you roll after that.
Right, absolutely. So you could just type in the 8 and you're done. And because this is an ecclesiastic class, it did fill in the spell list that I draw from and my starting casting ability at level 1. So it fills all those in. It does assume you're level 1. So that's why you want to be careful with this. If you are 3rd level and you accidentally click that, well, you're going to want to hit cancel when you get this prompt, because you don't want to accidentally overwrite your fighting ability and your casting ability and stuff like that. But if you're just starting out, as I am at level 1, obviously this is perfectly safe because I've got nothing in here that I'm worried about. So there's 2 ways to quickly create one slightly quicker than the other.
Right. So Hobbs has a question in the chat. Oddball thought: are individual spell lists, e.g. pyromancer or necromancer lists, separate class features in the compendium from the basic thaumaturgy casting feature? I'm thinking back to a conversion a couple of months ago about swapping warlock lists and such.
Okay, so what I've done for the spells is the raw spell list in the compendium is set up with everything. And if you look at a given spell, you'll see the classes that can actually cast this spell just in the classes field here. And if there's a spell that has multiple levels, you'll see it's like L4 and L3, because some classes cast it at level 3, some at level 4. And then what I did to make it a little more user-friendly is when you're in if you go all the way to the player's handbook, which is what the players would have access to by default, they could go into classes and, actually not classes, I'm sorry, they would go into sorcery to see their spells, and then they can look at their spell list for their class. So I've done all this for the compendium.
So if you're playing a warlock, Hobbs, and you decide that you're going to draw from the necromancer's list, you can just go to that list for necromancers, and all of those spells are at your fingertips.
Yep, exactly. And then because of the way these are set up as buttons, as you can see, you can click it to open up the spell description, but you can also drag and drop it right to your character sheet. So if I'm I can literally take Summon Invisible Stalker, drag it over here, and now Argyros has that spell. Now he's not a spellcaster, but the system is not going to enforce that kind of a rule. It'll let me drag the item to the sheet, no problem. So, and I'll just remove it. But yeah, that's how we've got the spells organized. Like I said, the raw form is right here. But normally, the way I have the permissions set up is players really just have access to the player's handbook and everything that this links to. So this is just the sorcery chapter of the player's handbook, but the full player's handbook is all your class descriptions, and you can see all the information that's essentially, a mirror, if you will, of the player's handbook, with the basic class description, all the requirements, and the class abilities that go with it. And those class abilities are class specific. So even if you have Agile across multiple classes, I actually have a class description that's specific for each class, even if it has the same name. Because there are occasionally some differences.
Right. Take, for example, a huntsman. The tracking ability is going to be different than how the scout's tracking ability works.
Right. Yep, here's an example, Agile for Barbarian versus Thief. Now, I think they're exactly the same, but the point is they are set up as separate abilities in the underlying data.
Right.
And yeah,
there are some, though, that have...
Yep.
Gordunk is asking about if the compendium is going to be a premium purchase or if it's going to be free. So, yes, it is going to be a premium purchase because we intend to have a large amount of the content from the two books, the player's manual and the referee's manual, in these. So because we're giving full descriptions of things and not just a tiny bullet point description that it's not something that we would be giving away for free at that point.
Yep. All the equipment is here. Weapons, all the gear. This is clothing. This is religious gear. This is miscellaneous gear. Broken down, as you can see, provisions, the whole bit. So all pre-configured, all the spells. Adventure has some hireling stuff in there for you. So you can use that to do reaction rolls when you want to hire someone, loyalty rolls, morale checks. There's also pre-generated NPCs, so you can just, essentially drag this right out into your. This is a GM would have to do this. Referee would have to do this because they're the one with the rights, but they could drag this right out into the actors list, which is to say, get some things out of the way here. This is your actors list right here, so you could literally drag, these guys into here, and you could have them right here in your mercenaries folder, like I've done. So make them.
That's wonderful.
Yep, easy to use that way. So, by the way, these NPCs are set up on an NPC sheet, not a full character sheet. So, if you need someone more complicated, you would want to use the full character sheet. The NPC sheet doesn't do things like all your attributes. It does have a base dex number, because that's used for initiative rolls, but it's not applying any bonuses or penalties for a high or low dex other than the initiative option. So
Sure. So if you go from someone that's just a hired hand for a little while, and you can use this, but then if that NPC becomes like a henchman or something like that, and you want to start to more flesh it out more, then you have that availability.
Exactly. Yeah, you just want to start a new character sheet for them, and roll up their attributes and flesh it out like you just said. Yep. So yeah, and then there's also back to the there's a referee's handbook with the full bestiary,
Yep.
um,
Yeah, let's take a look at some of those monsters.
treasure tables. Oh sure, absolutely. So I mean, it's the full bestiary. So what do you want to see? It's got the whole darn thing, and I did break it out by letters, just like the referee's manual does as well. It was an easy way to organize it. So if you look in J, oh, there's the one jackalope.
Sure.
So, and by the way, this token alias feature that allows you to hide the actual ID of the monster when you're in an initial combat. If your players have never encountered this creature before, your characters, you could just say big giant rabbit or whatever you want to call it in the token alias, and that's how it will appear on the map and in the combat tracker, etc. In fact, I think I've got this guy set up as Big Ugly Orc.
Okay, so if you don't fill anything in that field, it's just going to give you the standard name.
Yep, it'll give you Orc Necromancer, but if the players don't know he's an Orcish Necromancer, I just put Big Ugly Orc over here in the alias, and that's how he appears right here. And even in the combat tracker, if I start a combat like that, you can see he shows up as Big Ugly Orc right there. So all they know is he's a Big Ugly Orc until he starts casting necromancy spells.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn his light source off.
Especially where there's, if you go back to the 1970s and the 1980s when we were using the Monsters Manual and then the Monsters Manual 2, and especially like the Fiend Folio.
Yep.
There came a time for the monsters in the Monsters Manual that most of the players started to know what they were. If you describe a Sturge, everyone now is going to know what it is. And so occasionally we do have some monsters that are new, something that might be introduced in the appendix of an adventure module. That's something new that we created. And so you could have a description of it instead of actually having a name for it. And sometimes it works the opposite way too. Sometimes if you just describe it but you don't say the name, then the players might not put that together.
Yep.
And, you might say some ugly dog-like looking humanoid, and they might not know that it's a gnoll.
Right.
It could be something else.
Absolutely. Yeah, or a variant on an undead that looks kind of zombie-ish but isn't.
Right.
Or whatever happens to be. Yeah, right. Absolutely. One of the new features with version 2.0. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you have the intestine zombies, so you wouldn't list that. You could say it looks like a zombie coming up to you until its stomach splits open and the intestines are trying to choke you to death.
Right. Exactly. I was gonna say in version 2.0, one of the new features is some of you who have been following this or are using it, you'll know this is a relatively recent feature to have the currently equipped weapon and or shield as an overlay on your token. What I have done is
We talked about this in the newest video.
Sorry, what's that?
Oh, you talked about this in your newest video, right? About how you were working on some of the errors that were.
Yep, exactly. And I got those fixed, so it's aligning correctly now. It was just a weird scaling issue. But what I've done now is I've actually changed it so that if you're not in combat, they don't appear, because personally I find them a little bit distracting. So if I kill the combat here and then just sort of mouse over to refresh the tokens, you can see the overlays disappear. But as soon as I add them back into combat and then the tokens refresh, now the overlay is back. So it's useful for combat, obviously, which is why you want that. But I just went ahead and disabled it by default when you're more in an exploratory mode. So I could actually make that an optional checkbox, so people, if they really want to have that on all the time, they could do so. But currently, I just have it as the default behavior. That's still in development. So.
Okay.
Anywho, so that's that. Any more questions coming through?
No other questions right now. Did we take a look at how some of the magic items look in the referee's manual?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go back to treasure, not the tables. We do have all the treasure tables. So, you can, this is just magical categories, but if I even go out to treasure tables, all your classes are here. So if you open up Class A, it's got all the stuff, and you can roll on each one of those, etc. But if we go to the actual descriptions, I need to go into not the tables, but the magical treasure. Here we go. I forget. And all the unique items are in here. You're not going to see +2 plate mail or +2 chain mail, because that's just chain mail that you're going to add a +2 on, right? So I did not create that as items, because you can just go into chain mail and you can say, oh yeah, the base armor class is 3. Done. That's all you got to do for +2 chain mail.
Sure.
So yeah, I didn't. Oopsie. Change it back. So I didn't bother doing that. But for anything that's unique, like your zirconium suit, it's got the setup with all the stats. It's got the full description, which is fairly lengthy on this one, as you can see here. This is a little CSS issue where I've got a lot of dead space there that this should be scrolling down into. So that's, again, this is my version 2.0 in development. So it's just one of those things that I got to fix the CSS for it. That's why it's in a limited viewing window as opposed to going the full length of the page. But it does have the full description here, as you can see, fairly lengthy for zirconium suit. All your miscellaneous items with all of your abilities. One thing people might find interesting, let's see, did I actually set that up yet? All your staves, like if we look at Staff of Power, yeah, Staff of Power, I've got linked all the spells that it can cast.
Okay, that makes.
And I even made it a little bit more interesting, because now this is pretty cool, I think. Within the last couple months ago, I think I added the ability to add spells to an item. So this spells tab here is what would appear when you check the box for it. And then you can drag and drop spells onto your item, and they will appear here. And you can drag and drop to, sort them. So you can sort them in whatever order you want. You can see you can assign charges. Some spells use more charges than others. You can have the total casting ability. We can put you can actually randomly roll the actual charges that are available in the item, whatever they might happen to be. Or leave it blank if you're not using charges. Therefore, the spells can just be cast without doing it. But if you have the charge numbers set up, it will actually subtract your charges when you're casting your spells. So as an example,
Sure.
If I look at Andronakos here, I believe he's got the Staff of the Magus and Power, because I was testing both. And you can see you got a little magic wand icon here. That's what allows you to cast spells from it. Since the Magus one is not equipped, it wouldn't let me. As you can see, I got this little warning up here. But if I do Staff of Power, which is equipped, you can see the darkened fist over there. Now I get a whole list of spells that I can choose from. These are the spells that are configured on this item. If it's just a single spell, like a Wand of Fireball, it'll just cast it. But if it sees there's more than one spell, you'll get this pop-up with a prompt to select which spell you wish to cast. And then I can hit Darkness or whatever, and I can hit Cast, and then confirm to cast. And then if we actually look back here, I didn't look at it before, but this used to be 12, so it actually would have subtracted the one charge to take it from 12 to 11.
Sure.
So it'll do all that if you've got it set up, which the compendium does.
There are going to be some referees who prefer to play it in a style in which the players are never aware of how many charges their item has.
Yes. In fact, there's an ability to do that. If I go into the attributes here, you can hide the charges.
Oh, very nice.
So has spells is what enables the spells on the tab over here and makes the tab appear. If I undo that, you see the spells tab just disappeared. But if I just redo has spells, now thankfully, the system kept the spells in there, sort of in the data in the background. They're just, not accessible. But so if I re-enable that, but if I do this, now as a GM, I'm still going to see all the info. But as a player, you're going to see question marks for the charges. So you're not going to know how many charges are used. You'll be able to see the casting ability, but you will not know how many charges your item has. So you can do exactly as you were saying, Jeff, and have that mystery where the player's like, oh, do I want to use this spell? Because I don't know if the thing's going to run out of charges on me, and they have that decision they have to make. So, yeah.
Resource management, right?
Exactly. So, but that is clearly optional, but that's what it does. So, yep.
So how about if a referee wanted to create his own staff or wand and then populate that with a few different spells?
Yep. So I would, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Pop that back out. What I would do is I might just say, let's close the armor folder. Let's say I'm going to do a new magic item, and I'm going to just create one right in here, and I'm just going to call it the staff of Jeff. No, the staff of Talanian, because that's kind of a cool sounding name anyway. And we're actually going to call it a weapon, because a staff is effectively a quarter staff, right? So I'm going to call it weapon. I could call it, I could just as easily call it an item and not a weapon, but we'll leave it as weapon, because then we can actually say, well, it's actually a +2, right? And it does 1d6, I think, for a quarterstaff. And we can set it up to do bludgeoning damage. This is totally optional. To be 100% clear with everybody, this is not rules as written. This is an optional feature that I just thought would be cool. So that's why it's disabled by default.
Well, it is useful.
Yep.
It is useful in certain circumstances where you're fighting like a skeleton or something like that, and you may want to know, because a bludgeoning weapon will do full damage, but something that's like a piercing weapon or whatever would do lesser damage.
Exactly, and that's exactly why I did it right there, was for things like that. Normally, you would just have to know, oh yeah, you're using a bladed weapon. But I thought, we might want to automate some stuff, and so by having this set up, you can see it says bludgeoning down here. That's also new for version 2.0, so it's not actually in any system that anyone's running right now. It's just a little tweak that I added for the new release coming out here in a week or so. Or I don't have a date set. It might be a couple of weeks. It depends on how long it takes me. But you've got that. But then you can say, okay, this is a staff. It's a magic staff. So I'm going to go, okay, we're going to say it has spells. And I'll even hide the charges. Although as a GM, this isn't going to matter. So I'm not going to bother. If I was logged in as a player, I could show that off. But I'm logged in as a GM. But then we can go in. We've got spells. Now we say, okay, well, let's actually find some spells. So we'll go and get some spells. And we're going to say, okay, let's say, first of all, we want a light spell. So let's find light. Just drag that onto there. There it is. Give me a spell. What would you like?
Let's see some good ones here. Let's go with just a standard magic missile.
Magic missile. There we go. Okay. I'll drag this in a little bit. Any others? Anything interesting?
How about detect evil?
Alrighty. Doesn't really matter which one I choose. They're the same spell.
And that makes for an interesting staff.
Sure. And then we can say, maybe it originally...
And I would say each one of those abilities, it would take one charge each, because they're all one first level spells.
Yep. And so the casting ability has to be, obviously there has to be at least one. For first level spells, we could leave it at 1, or you could say, it actually has a casting ability of 9, which would then affect the number of missiles that are cast, as an example.
Right.
The other 2 probably are not affected by your CA, but that's that. And then if we just say it's got 15 charges, I've got all that set up now. And if I view this, I can open up any one of the spells and see what they do. So it's pretty straightforward.
So now taking it back to something that you were touching on earlier, if you have that light spell and you cast it, can you make it then emanate from your character on the battle board?
So I would have to edit the spell because I don't currently have it set up as a light source. And the reason I did not do that for light is because people often don't cast it upon themselves. They cast it on other things.
Right.
Whereas a torch you're carrying, so the assumption is it's going to be on the token.
Sure. But in the case of a staff, maybe it's a gem on the tip of the staff that lights up every time.
That's a valid point. In which case, actually, what I would probably do then is instead of having light there, what I might do is go back in here and say it's a light source. So I'm going to tap that checkbox right
There you
there.
go.
And now I can say,
Very
well, let's
nice.
see, it's got 30 feet of dim with a 15-foot core radius of bright light. We can give it a duration, or we can make it permanent. We can do a roll formula, so we can do like D12 plus 6 or something like that. So it's anywhere from 7 to 18 rounds. You can even, if you do the math, you could roll it out for turns. Just realize there's 60 rounds in a turn. So you could say something like 6D12 plus 60 or something like that. So a minimum of an hour plus minimum of a turn plus however many additional rounds you might roll. You can give it by default 360, a full radius circle. If you do it something
Yep.
less, it'll actually Foundry will actually have that light source go out in a cone. So if I set it to
Right. Do you have a bullseye lantern set up that way?
I do, as a matter of fact. I think I actually have it set up on our friend Argyros here. Lantern bullseye. So let's turn that on. I just did. And now if we go over here, you can see the cone of light. It's facing down right now.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yep, and I'm holding down the control key on my keyboard, and then I'm rolling my mouse wheel to change the direction. You can see that the whole token is rotating, but the light source does rotate with him.
Right.
So yep, you can definitely
Pretty
set
cool.
that up. And I don't remember if it's 15 degrees or what, but that is the number that was set up for the bullseye lantern. If we look at him on the light source there, yeah, I gave it 15 degrees. So, and gave it a coloration to the light, just to give it a little bit of a yellowish
Yeah.
for the flame.
Sure.
But yeah, back to here, we can set all this up.
Yeah, I like the little workaround. Yeah, that little workaround for the light on the staff. That's nice.
Mhm.
Then you can give it its own unique color as well.
Exactly. Maybe the staff is a ruby, so we give it a kind of a deep reddish color, something like that.
Sure. Mhm.
Let's see if we put a duration on there. So now I've got the staff of Telanian. So if I now drag it to the character, so let's just give it to Andronakos here. So let's find staff. There he is. We'll drag that onto his character sheet. Since I set it up as a weapon, it's going to appear right here. And you can see I get both the wand for casting the spells, if it's equipped, which it's not, but I can do that. The wand for casting spells, and of course there's just the 2 that we have left that are castable. And then the light source, which if I do that, it just turned it on. And then you can see he's got a pink glow to him, and I guess I must have given it a 30-degree angle because that's what he's got right now.
Nice.
Yep. And on his token, I believe I locked it, so you can see the token's not rotating, but the light source is. And the way you do that is you prototype the token, and I believe there's a lock checkbox on here somewhere. I actually forget. It's been a while since I've looked at that. There's a place in here. I don't want to waste too much time. That's just a built-in Foundry thing. It's nothing special that I wrote for Hyperborea. It's just built-in Foundry feature. But in any case, yep. So that's how that works.
Very nice.
And then I can just go back to combat and re-hit the light source to toggle it back off again. So, all right. Any other questions queuing up?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else interesting? Oh, version 2.0. So this is the version 2.0. For those of you who may not have heard, I'm working on version 2.0, which will be only supported on Foundry version 13. So up until now, I've been supporting both Foundry 12 and Foundry 13. But when I release 2.0 here, relatively soon, it'll be for Foundry 13 only because some of the enhancements that the Foundry team did for version 13 made things easier for me to implement. So I went ahead and implemented them for 13, but it was either not possible at all or much more challenging to do in 12, and I didn't really want to put in the effort since I knew that 12 is effectively going away. So, but what I was going to say was, one of the things I've done is I've improved the drag sorting in the items list. So in the current version, if you're running Foundry right now and Hyperborea version 1.23, which is my current release, you do have the ability to sort items that are not inside a container, just dragging and dropping, just like I'm doing here. Okay, but if you're inside a container, it doesn't sort. What happens is, and this is by design, but what happens is if I drag arrows over silver arrow, what it does is let me go back over here. This is version 1.23. So I can actually give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. If I drag writing stick over tinderbox, the writing stick is going to disappear from my backpack because it becomes an uncontained item and it appears right there. Okay, it doesn't always appear at the top of the list. It actually sorts by the item ID, which is this really random string. So you never really know. It's not going to be alphabetical. It randomly appeared here at the front, but it doesn't always do that. But that's by design because I didn't really, at the time when I wrote this feature, which is over a year ago now, I couldn't really think of a good way to handle being able to move items in and out of a container, short of just being able to drag them over each other to pop them back out again. And honestly, I got the idea from another system because I was still learning how to write code for Foundry. And so that's how the system works. If you've been using the system, you already probably are aware that is the normal behavior. But that also means you cannot sort items in a container because if you try to sort, it's just going to drag and pop it back out here again, out here. In version 2.0, I sat down and figured it out.
Okay.
So now I can say, oh, look, I want to sort items in my container, and it lets me do it.
That's good.
Yep. So now, and if you want to pull an item out of a container, you just got to drag it off to the side like that, or you can drag it all the way down to the section of non-contained items. But somewhere down here is my blanket, winter. Yep, there it is. Again, these sort by item ID by default, but then you can, again, you can drag and drop and sort them in whatever order you want, and it will remember that afterwards. It's just that the initial default is by item ID. So I can drag it back into my container. And another feature that I've added with version 2.0, I don't know if you can see that, but as I drag over the container, it gets slightly highlighted in yellowish with a blue line on the top and bottom. I've just added that as a little eye candy to make it a little more obvious that you're dragging it into the container.
Oh, okay. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That way you're not like dropping into no man's land.
Exactly. You know that you're over the container at that point, so when you let go of it, it's going to land in the container where you want it. And then again, you can sort within a container. So yeah, version 2.0 will have that new sorting capability. Okay. Also, again, version 2.0, the scrolling is a little different now. So in the version 1.23, you can see the whole page scrolls. And the header scrolls right off the top. In version 2.0, the header stays static, and it, whoopsie. Oh, I didn't, here's version 2.0. The header stays static, and the tabs stay static, and it just scrolls the tab content. So I just changed that up a little bit. I thought it was a little more, more what people would expect in a normal graphical interface. So.
Yeah, and as you can see with the items list too, that the weights are listed, and if something has a negligible weight, like a piece of parchment, that's just left blank.
Yep, exactly. Blanket winter. So a lot of my data here is test data, so it may be missing, but if you look in the compendium, you will find that I have filled in all the weights for all the gear. So if we look at equipment and general, and we look at blanket, let's see, does it have a weight on it? So actually, it doesn't. Actually, hang on one second here.
Well, gauze probably is negligible.
Yeah, gauze would be negligible. But I just realized the weight should be showing along the top here. Again, version 2.0, I'm still working out some of the CSS and stuff, so sometimes things don't appear like they should. So
I see.
Yeah, that's there should have been a weight there, a weight field, even if it was empty. So I'm not sure what I was missing there, but again, things are so heavily under development that I've just been jamming through things and then knocking down bugs as I find them. So,
Sure.
yeah, if you look at, yeah, you'd see all your weapon stuff here. But even regular items, like magic items, are typically items. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff you would expect to see in the compendium, or for any item, even non-magical stuff. You're going to see quantity, you're going to see a weight if it has one, what is gold piece value cost is, all that stuff is going to be there and filled in. And if there's no weight, it'll be empty. But if there is a weight in the player's handbook, I did populate it. So one thing you can do with gold,
Very
by
nice.
the way, for people who are interested, you can put in silver piece and copper piece and platinum piece values here. The system will actually calculate those correctly. And the reason that's nice is when you're looking at your items and you're looking at gold piece value, it's actually going to do the math. Now, the funny thing is sometimes it does the math a little wonky. As an example, rations, if I can find my rations, here we are. Rations are priced for a set of 7. And this one I have set up incorrectly. Again, test data, so cost should not be 5. It should be 5 divided by 7, and whatever that is in silver pieces. So if I go over here and look at my equipment, I probably have it set up. So if I go to provisions and look at rations, that's right, the display isn't working in version 2.0. Anyway, suffice to say, the downside of working with a developer is I've got lots of development data, so sometimes things look a little messy, but the reality is the compendium actually is clean data, even if I'm having a hard time demonstrating it. And it will have the right number, and then it'll multiply it by 7, assuming you've got 7, to tell you what the gold piece value is listed in the column here. And
Sure.
it does the same thing. So and my greater point was, if you have it in silver pieces, it'll do the math and convert it to a fraction of gold. So when you see like grease at 0.04 gold pieces, well, this is just set up as 0.04, but I could have just as easily set it up as what is it, 2 silver pieces or whatever. Do we know the thing offhand for, if I just say 2 silver pieces like that, whoops, no M, like that,
Yep.
it'll still do the math correctly. If we go back to grease, so it changed to 0.2 because I got the number wrong, but you can see that it's taking 2 SP and it's figuring out, oh yeah, that's 2/10 of a gold piece. So
1/10 of a gold piece. Yeah.
so it does do the math correctly for the gold piece value column, even if you have copper pieces or silver pieces or electrum or whatever. So total carried is used for encumbrance, by the way. I don't know if anybody has played with this, but if I take and I just weigh him down, you can see I just put a bag of bricks just to add a bunch of weight. You can see it now shows encumbered here, and on the combat tab, it's going to show encumbered, and it reduced his move by 10 because he's encumbered.
Oh, okay.
And I think that also affects your hit AC, so it probably penalized his AC as well. If I add another bag of bricks, he should go to heavily encumbered. There he goes. Now he's heavily. His move dropped to 20, and yes, his AC went from 2 to 3. So it did the AC and the move penalty as he became more and more encumbered. If I remove all these bags of bricks, we'll go back to unencumbered. And now he's 40 and AC of 1. And, this is another one of those where, I see a lot of conversations, people asking in the Discord about, how do you deal with encumbrance? Well, this was a way that I found to do it systemically. It does build on the rules as written a little bit because it's a little less formal in the rule books. And I know, Jeff, that's by design. But what I did was I actually said this is a configuration option. So if we go into here and we look at our config options and we go, I believe it's under combat because it affects your move and AC.
Right.
We have it down. Oh, maybe I didn't put it under combat. Maybe I put it under general rules. Yeah, here we go, encumbrance. So you can enable the encumbrance formula, yes or no. It's disabled by default, as you can see in the text here. But if you enable it, then it takes these 2 numbers down here. So these are not used if you don't have it enabled. But if they are, and again, the GM referee, you can set this to whatever you want. This is the default values. It just multiplies the strength to determine how many pounds can you carry before you reach encumbered, and how many pounds can you carry before you reach heavily encumbered. And that's 15 times your strength. So that's why it says ST times, and then this number. So if your strength is 15, you're encumbered at 150 pounds. And 15 times 15, you're heavily encumbered at 225 pounds. So again, it's a little bit of a house rule, and you can choose to use it or not, and you can set the multipliers to be whatever you want for what you think is reasonable as a referee.
Sure.
Any other questions out there? Anything anybody wants to
No,
see?
I think.
Did someone just join?
Yes, vastly blank.
Already.
Greetings. Hobbs is asking what you are using for maps.
To draw my maps, I actually have a pro account with Incarnate, which is inkarnate.com. But yeah, I do all my maps in Incarnate. So they've got a nice selection of built-in assets as for drawing walls, as well as populating things like bookshelves and fountains and statues and whatever else. So this was 100% Incarnate, this map.
And so, when you are, if you wanted to have your map zoomed out like that,
Yep.
can you incorporate fog of war so that that opens up?
Yes. Let's see. I don't have it enabled on this map. But yes, absolutely, that is just built into Foundry, and all you have to do is, as a GM, you would take the wall controls here, and you would draw all your walls, and then you would enable the fog of war so that the players can only see as far as their token is allowed to see. So if I go, let me go back to the regular selection here. If I open up a token, and we look at this here, look at vision. So vision is not enabled, and all that really means is vision restrictions are not enabled. Doesn't mean he can't see. So if I enable that, now vision restrictions are enabled, and you may have seen my screen just went dark in the background there. And I can say his vision range with illumination. Oh, this is without any light. Sorry, without any light. So maybe it's 0. Maybe I leave it at 0 without any light. And if I just click update token and close that, you can see he can't see a darn thing. Now, does he have a light source? He might. He has a torch, so let's light up the torch. And now you can see that he has that full radius light of torch. And if I had the walls set up, he really would be limited to seeing only up and down these two halls to the north and south and into the room to the east, and that's all he would be able to see. I just don't have the walls set up. But otherwise, yeah, that's all built-in Foundry functionality.
To answer Vastly Blank, who said couldn't stay long and just thought it'd pop in to see what we were showing, you can also keep in mind that we are recording this on YouTube, so everything that we've done for the past hour or so you can catch up with on there.
Yep.
On Dave. Dave, do you want to give a shout out to your YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, sure. It's the same as my handle in Discord, Thurian Knight. So if you look me up, THURIANKNIGHT, but don't try and spell it. Just look me up in Discord. You'll see how I spell my name. You can find that in YouTube. And I've got a whole playlist of Hyperborea on Foundry videos demonstrating features as I release them. So it's it's getting to be a fairly lengthy list of videos. And of course, if you keep an eye on the Hyperborea VTT channel in our Discord, I'm constantly posting when I do put up a new feature or a new video or whatever. So I keep that updated so people are aware. But yeah, that's out there.
Excellent.
So
Jan0195 had a question. Have you considered making that? I don't know. I guess I don't know what Jan's referring to as when you say that. It must have been something you were talking about earlier. Have you considered making that when you add an item to a character's sheet, it will subtract the gold pieces from the character automatically?
That was nothing I had ever thought of before. It's not a bad idea. It's nothing, honestly, it never occurred to me. It would not be difficult. Maybe I could turn that as an optional feature that referees could enable or disable, because I can see plenty of times where you're dragging loot on and you don't want the gold piece value to be subtracted because you're actually acquiring loot, not purchasing something. But I could also see it being handy if you're going shopping. So Yeah, that's actually an interesting idea. Never thought of it before. No.
Yeah, I would have always thought that it's something like that would just be done manually each time.
Yeah, and that it is right now. You'd have to do it manually. Yes. So, yep.
But so he's referring to also the process of equipping a new character, which can be tedious when you're trying to account for every gold piece and silver piece.
Right. That's a very valid point. So I'll say this: when you do the quick create, which is not currently visible because this character has already been created, but let's see, did we have Brog here set up? Yeah, he has not been quick created yet. When you do the quick create, and there we go, it's all populating like crazy there, and the items are added, the system actually it populates your gear with the starting pack for that class, and it rolls like 1d4 gold. So you can d4 plus 1.
Right.
You can see here he ended up with 5 gold pieces, so it must have rolled a 4 in the background. And of course,
Right.
it generates that nice little report for you. Right here it is. So it tells you exactly everything that it did when you do the quick creation, including, I'm pretty sure it should have the gold on there. Maybe I'm wrong. Get past the attributes. Okay, it doesn't actually tell you what it rolled for gold, I guess. But you can see that it obviously came out to be a 5. That was a 0 previously. So it will do that with the starting pack. But if you're doing it manually, to more directly to your question, if you are just dragging and dropping items, then yeah, it would be I can see where that convenience factor would be nice to have it subtracting from some set number of gold pieces if you had actually rolled 3d6 times 10 gold to have that number subtracted automatically for you.
Right. Something that's a check-off box that you can use temporarily.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. A referee could turn it on during character creation, session 0, whatever you want to call it, and then once everybody's created their characters, turn the feature back off and maybe enable it as
Right,
needed.
because you can kill an orc and you can kill an orc and take his backpack and his 4 torches or whatever.
Right, exactly, and not have that subtracted. Yep.
Right.
But then you can re-enable it when the party's in town for downtime and they're acquiring some new gear.
Yeah. Then you can click it back on. The party's back. Re-equipping back in the town or city.
Yep.
And but there also may be instances in which so by default the general equipment and weapon and armor costs in the game are intended for the major cities of Hyperborea, such as Chromarium, Gal City, and the different larger cities, Fort Zangarios.
Yep.
But if you're in some smaller villages in the middle of nowhere, something may be cheaper than what you expected, and something may be a lot more expensive or maybe completely unavailable. If you're in a small village in the middle of a woodland, you're not going to be buying plate mail armor, but you may be buying some leather armor at an inflated price.
Yep.
So it'd be good to have both options, that you could set it to the by the book value of these things, and then also have be able to manually adjust.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay.
We have JNov36 just joined us.
Alrighty. Welcome.
Welcome indeed. So JNov, just so you know, like we've been saying, we're also recording this on YouTube. So if you check out Thurian Knight's YouTube channel, everything that we've been talking about so far in the last hour and 15 minutes will be on there as well.
Yep. I'll probably get this posted in a couple of days here. So I'll do some minor editing cleanup, but it'll be mostly just the raw of everything we've talked about. So
sounds good.
Yep. Any other questions?
Well, I think I'm going to be signing off now. It is 9:15 here on a Sunday night in Eastern time.
Oh, right.
So, but if you want to continue, feel free, of course. But I have to hit the hay.
No, that's cool. I think, I'm Central Time, but honestly, alternating between Discord and stuff might be a bit of a hassle. If there's any last questions, people type fast. I'll answer them. Otherwise, I think we will go ahead and call it a night.
Sure. Any of you guys have any last questions you want to throw out there? All right, I think we're good.
Okay. Cool school. Well, hopefully people got some benefit out of this. I'd be happy to do this again in the future if there's if there is a benefit to be seen or demand for it. But otherwise,
Yeah, I would love to.
It was fun.
Great to just talk it through too, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So Ashley Blank, Gordon, Crayson, they're all thanking you, Dave, for all your hard work on this. You've done an incredible job.
Thank you very much, and thanks guys for joining. And happy gaming. I'll see you on the Discord.
Have a good night.
All right, see ya.